There is a 125 million-year-old fossil sitting in a museum in China's Shandong province, and it is not a diagram, not an illustration, not an artist's guess. It is a murder scene, frozen in stone. A mammal on top of a dinosaur, teeth sunk into its ribs, one paw wrapped around its jaw, mid-attack, when a wall of volcanic debris swept over both of them and sealed them together forever. About 125 million years ago in what is now northern China, a furry, badger-sized mammal and a scaly dinosaur 3 times its size were locked in mortal combat. The small mammal appears to have had the upper hand and may have been moments away from devouring its prey when a volcanic debris flow swept over them, instantly killing and entombing them both. Cemented in stone, their skeletons intertwined, the mammal's teeth chomping down onto 2 of the dinosaur's ribs, they lay together through the ages. This video is about what that fossil actually tells us, and it is a lot more disturbing than most people realize. The story you learned as a kid, where tiny little mammals hid in the shadows while dinosaurs ruled the earth, turns out to be wrong, and the evidence that broke it open has been sitting right in front of us for decades. I want to walk you through the whole thing, because by the end, your mental picture of the dinosaur age is going to look completely different. We are going to cover the attack fossil itself, a second piece of evidence that is somehow even more damning, the size facts that flip everything upside down, and this is the part almost nobody talks about, a completely different mammal, on the other side of the world, with a weapon that makes Repenomamus look tame. So let's start with what we actually know about the animal doing the attacking. Its name is Repenomamus robustus, and it looked something like a stocky, muscular badger. It was among the largest mammals living during the Cretaceous period. The Repenomamus specimen in the attack fossil measures about 47 centimeters in length, while the Psittacosaurus it was attacking measures nearly 120 centimeters. So we are talking about an animal roughly a third the size of its target, going after it anyway. And the way it was doing it is what makes researchers so confident this was an active hunt and not just a mammal scavenging something already dead. The fossil shows the left hand of Repenomamus wrapped around the lower jaw of the Psittacosaurus. The extent of the animal's entanglement and the absence of bite marks on the dinosaur's skeleton suggest the mammal was not scavenging on a carcass. Researchers confirmed that the left lower jaw of the mammal does indeed plunge into the rock to clench the ribs of the dinosaur. This was a takedown in progress, and here is the detail that is going to make you wince a little. Researchers compared this attack posture to how wolverines and African wild dogs hunt prey much larger than themselves, going in fast, grabbing hold, and letting the animal collapse from shock and blood loss while they are still eating it. The read from the fossil is that Repenomamus was likely eating the Psittacosaurus alive when the volcano ended both of their days. Not a clean kill, a live feeding, interrupted by an eruption. The site has been called China's Dinosaur Pompeii because of how many animals were rapidly buried by mudslides and debris following volcanic eruptions. That volcanic event, the thing that killed them, is also the reason we know any of this at all. Now here is where it gets even more interesting, because the attack fossil is not the only evidence we have. In 2005, researchers examining a different Repenomamus fossil discovered the tiny bones of a young Psittacosaurus lodged in the mammal's stomach. So we had already known this animal ate dinosaurs. What we did not know, until the attack fossil came along, was whether it hunted them or just cleaned up after something else made the kill. More fossils were needed for scientists to determine whether Repenomamus actively hunted larger dinosaurs or just snacked on defenseless baby dinos. 2 separate fossils, 2 separate smoking guns. One shows the meal still in the stomach, the other shows the hunt itself, frozen mid-action. And remember, I said there is a detail coming that will flip your whole mental model of this animal's world. Because first, I want to talk about size, because this is where most people's assumptions completely fall apart. When we picture the dinosaur age, we picture dinosaurs as the big things and mammals as the tiny things. And for most of the Mesozoic, that is basically true. But Repenomamus had a larger cousin. The larger species, Repenomamus giganticus, had a total length over 1 meter and an estimated mass of 12 to 14 kilograms. That is the size of a medium dog. Repenomamus was larger than several small sympatric dromaeosaurid dinosaurs like Graciloraptor. So in this particular corner of Cretaceous China, there were actual raptors, small feathered dinosaurs that were outweighed by the mammal living alongside them. The raptors were the little guys. That is not a detail that fits the story we were told. Repenomamus is a genus of Eutriconodonts, a group of early mammals with no modern relatives. That matters more than it might seem. This was not some early ancestor of anything alive today. It was its own thing, a fully formed predator lineage that figured out how to hunt dinosaurs, thrived for millions of years, and then vanished entirely. No descendants, no legacy, just a branch of the mammal family tree that grew, ate dinosaurs and ended. Which is a strange and kind of haunting thought, and it also means the tidy story where small, humble mammals patiently waited in the shadows until the dinosaurs died, then inherited the earth, is not quite right. Some of those mammals were already out in the open, already hunting, already winning fights they had no business winning. The textbooks just did not know it yet. Repenomamus robustus was described in 2001, and the larger Repenomamus giganticus was described in 2005. That is recent. Within living memory, the scientific consensus was that every Mesozoic mammal was a shrew-sized insect eater hiding from dinosaurs. These fossils did not just add a detail to that picture, they replaced it. If you are finding this as wild as I did when I first went down this rabbit hole, hit subscribe, because we cover exactly this kind of thing here, the moments where the science completely overturns what everyone thought they knew. And drop a comment below. Did you learn in school that mammals were tiny and helpless during the dinosaur age? Because I am genuinely curious how many people got that version of the story. Okay, now here is the part I promised you at the start. The part that almost nobody covers when they talk about Repenomamus. Because here's the thing, I told you this was the only mammal that hunted dinosaurs, and that is not quite true. There was at least one more, and it had something. Repenomamus did not. On the other side of the world, roughly 60 million years later, right at the very end of the age of dinosaurs, there was an animal living in what is now Montana called Didelphodon vorax. It was a badger-sized relative of modern marsupials. Didelphodon was able to eat a variety of foods and was likely a scavenger predator who could eat prey ranging from snails to small dinosaurs. So already we have a second mammal, completely separate lineage, completely different part of the world, also eating dinosaurs. But here is what makes Didelphodon genuinely different. Researchers describe it as an early marsupial relative that lived alongside ferocious dinosaurs and had, pound for pound, the strongest bite force of any mammal ever recorded. Not one of the strongest ever. Didelphodon's canines were similar to living felines and hyenas, suggesting it could handle biting into bone, biting deep, and killing prey. When researchers performed the calculations and found that, when adjusted for body size, it was capable of a stronger pound-for-pound bite than a hyena. Even the scientists were surprised. Gregory Wilson of the University of Washington and his colleagues took CT scans of the fossils to reconstruct the animal's head and determine its bite force, and reported that the animal had the strongest bite force, pound for pound, of any known mammal. Stronger than a hyena. Stronger than a saber-toothed cat, in a body roughly the size of a large opossum, that is the weapon. Repenomamus did not have. Repenomamus was a hunter. Didelphodon was a crusher. One researcher put it directly. What I love about Didelphodon vorax is that it crushes the classic mold of Mesozoic mammals. Instead of a shrew-like mammal meekly scurrying into the shadows of dinosaurs, this badger-sized mammal would have been a fearsome predator on the late Cretaceous landscape, even for some dinosaurs. And now, here is the haunting part. The part that most content about these animals just skips over entirely. Neither of them made it. The team's findings suggest mammals were more varied during the age of dinosaurs than previously believed, and yet, the asteroid, 66 million years ago, did not spare the mammal dinosaur hunters any more than it spared the dinosaurs themselves. Didelphodon and its diverse marsupial relatives were wiped out in the same extinction event. The survivors, the marsupial lineage that eventually made it, shifted their range down to South America, which is part of why opossums come from where they do today. The dinosaur eaters lost the apocalypse too, and the survivors fled a continent. So here is what we actually know now, versus what most people were taught. Two separate mammal lineages on opposite sides of the planet in different geological periods, both independently figured out how to hunt and eat dinosaurs. One of them left us a fossil of the exact moment of an attack, 125 million years old, preserved in volcanic rock. The other left us the record of the most powerful bite, pound for pound, of any mammal that has ever existed. Both lineages went extinct, and as recently as the early 2000s, science did not know either of these animals had done any of this. That is not a footnote to the dinosaur story. That is a completely different story running alongside it the whole time. One where the mammals were not always hiding, not always small, and not always waiting their turn. Some of them were already out there, picking fights they were not supposed to win. If you want more of exactly this, the moments where paleontology quietly rewrites everything, there is a video right here that goes just as deep. Watch that next.